Welcome to day 4 of the Get Your First Pickleball Client Challenge. And first of all, I just want to say congratulations for getting this far, because if you're here, it means that you're committed. It means that you really want to do great things in this space. And I know that this training is really going to help you move closer to getting that yes and taking that payment and moving on that journey with your first pickleball client. So we're going to be covering some really important aspects today. And we're going to be talking about the sales conversation. We're going to be talking about payments. We're going to be probably, answering a lot of the questions that you've got. But before we dive into the process of taking someone that is interested to actually making a payment and investing with you, I want to kind of switch back to the mindset training again and bring awareness to, I think, something that is applicable to many people, which is the association to the word sales. Because especially if you're new to business, there is a certain feeling that we have around that word, because maybe you've had great experiences in sales, but also maybe you've had certain negative experiences. And that becomes problematic sometimes for someone that's quote unquote selling themselves. Because if we have felt something that doesn't feel good, potentially we think that, someone else is going to feel that way with us. And so it's important to unpack that a little bit, but also start by talking about the language. Does it actually feel better for you to think about the word enrollment, enrolling people into your pickleball business versus selling people into your pickleball business? That can be an important shift, a simple shift in language to help you better, develop that relationship. Now, you may be watching this saying, Simon, I've done sales, this is going to be easy for me. Even if you have been in that environment, I think it's also important to, sometimes get a reminder, and especially if you're not used to actually taking a payment on a call. Now, in the previous training, I mentioned that, yes, I think you can transit into, messages, DM messages, text, stuff like that when there's more demand. But I personally have made millions through conversations, through phone calls, through Zoom conversations. And the reason why that works is because you actually get to know somebody. You actually get to find out if they really need what you have to offer. And in this case, the chances are going to be very high, of course, because it's pickleball. But in the conversation, you also get to get a sense of that person's personality. Because here's one benefit of having a conversation with someone. If someone clicks a button on a website and then they sign up, maybe that person has a certain personality that you don't resonate with, right? So in a conversation, I get, and the other person gets to see, like, do we connect well energetically? I think that's actually really important for both people. So there are going to be more, I would say in-depth sales trainings for your first client. For the price point for what we're offering, you need a basic overview of a simple conversation that's not actually going to be very long. But structure for a lot of people is important, which is why I've included it. So I'm going to presume that you've done the previous trainings and now you're on a phone call with somebody, or you're on a Zoom call with somebody, or you're on a FaceTime with somebody. How should that conversation go, and how can that feel easy to you or easier to you, and for you to become aware of the potential challenges that can come with that conversation? So, okay, there's somebody on a call. The first thing to do is to build rapport. And the reason why that's important is to really just relax everybody, right? And also so people can kind of tune in with each other and just get common ground. And it just helps to actually, create an easier flow for the conversation. Now, I will say, prior to this, if you're feeling a sense of anxiety, if you're feeling a sense of fear, do a meditation, get yourself into the right state. Remember, I talked about in the first training, because if you're feeling that going in, that can be problematic with the outcome, because you won't be in a state where, just things are flowing more easily. Okay. So I will just say that. And let's just say that you're now in a conversation. So building rapport can be as simple as, asking someone, when did you get into pickleball? The great thing about pickleball is that we can generate rapport with someone relatively quickly, right? Finding out what area they live in, like whether they, you see something in the background if they're on a Zoom call or a FaceTime and there's a dog and you have a dog too. Like building rapport is just about creating a connection. And so the reason why, if you don't do that, is that it can make the other parts of the call, especially when you're getting into the sell part, more difficult if you're not feeling at ease with somebody. So rapport is a form of connection. And I would say that you don't want to move forward into finding out what their challenge is or where they are at in the stage of pickleball until you've generated rapport. Like, I just want to feel comfortable with somebody, and someone does with me if they're having a conversation with me. And one of the things I've learned over time in doing more and more conversations is the better you get at rapport and generating that relationship, the easier conversations go and they flow, actually, even if the person isn't a fit. Because we also have to recognize that actually not everybody that we have a conversation with is actually going to be a fit. A lot of people will, right? And you will get your first client through this process. So get rapport, first of all. And then on here, we've got the islands, okay? So the islands is basically, think about this side as the island of sad or the island of unfulfilled. And then this side is the island of happy and the island of results and outcomes, okay? So the reason why someone is going to make a purchase, why they're going to make an investment, is because they want to get from A to B, right? So some people want to get out of pain and they want to solve a problem that they've got. And then other people who are performance minded, they want to get to the next level. So yes, there may be, a certain problem, but they're not trying to get out of a real pain point. I'll give you some examples. So when I was selling personal training, you would have someone come in that's really kind of depressed because they're super overweight. It's painful for them. They've got people saying things to them. That's pain. That's real pain. That's a problem. And they want to get fit so they can feel more confident. Okay? Then you've got someone who comes in who they are already in shape. They're already fine, but they've got another goal, right? They've got to run a marathon, for example. And now they are looking to perform. So it's not necessarily that they have got a big pain point, but they have got a place that they want to be. But what's important about these two examples is that there is still an island where they don't want to be and an island where they want to be. Okay? So in the conversation, the goal really is to ask questions to find out where they are here. Okay? So in coaching, questions are very, very powerful. So some questions that you might ask in the initial stages is, share with me, the reason why you're reaching out to me today. And what's going to happen is they're going to share with you probably a bit about this island that they're on. Well, I've been, I've heard, about pickleball and I'm just really curious about it. Now, when someone reveals to you this immediate answer to this initial question, what you want to do is you want to go deeper into that. Think about it like a mind map, right? So here you've got a mind map, and so you can see how to get paid, and then you can see sales conversations, and then you can see the islands. And so it goes deeper from one to the other. So when you are asking that initial question of, what's the reason you reached out? What it's doing, the answer is giving you the opportunity to go into another level of depth to really find out what's happening on this island. Now I'll give you another example. Someone reaches out, what was the reason you reached out to me? I obviously know you're curious about pickleball, but tell me more. So another person might say, I've been playing open play, and if I'm being really honest with you, I struggle to keep up with my friends. So then the next question might be, how's that making you feel? right? So feeling-based questions is really helping us to get deeper. And we want to actually really dive into that to really understand the person where they're at. Then you can ask questions about, well, explain to me about what's happening during games. And then they're going to start to tell you. Now, what I'm trying to get to here is that in the early part of the conversation, what you're trying to do is build up a picture. If I'm talking to somebody and I'm on a call with them and potentially they want to work with me, I have to gather as much information as possible to understand that person so that they feel heard, which is legitimate. But also what I'm doing is I'm asking an initial set of questions to find out where they are, and then I'm going to ask where they want to be to then see if I am the right person to help them. So what you want to do in the first part of the conversation is really just ask questions and then listen. Because in a sales conversation, in a enrollment conversation, your job is to not be talking as much as the person. You want to be asking questions and then listening, making notes. Asking questions, listening, and making notes. All right? Once you've spent, and conversations at this price point for an initial first session don't need to be, I would say, need to be an hour, even though they could be if you resonate with the person and you're just jiving, right? That's fine. But for 5 minutes on, up to 5 minutes on rapport, even a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes on rapport, then go into questions. Use the threading example of going a little bit deeper and probably spend like 10 minutes in really asking questions and really getting to this point where you're like, oh, I can really help this person. Then what you want to do is you want to find out, okay, where do you want to be? Like, how do you want to feel? What are some of your goals in pickleball? Right? If I could wave a magic wand, like, what would happen after your first session? So, and they might say, do you know what? I just want to get clear on the rules, because I tell you, I went along and this whole scoring thing, I get really stressed out with the scoring thing. Now, you may have a structure to what you want to do. And this is what I mentioned in the previous training. You may have a structure on what you want to do in an initial session. But if you just have someone buy via the button on the website, show up, and then you go into your flow and you haven't asked these questions, you don't know that the main focus for you to make this first person feel happy is to actually just really help them with the scoring system, right? Which can be part of it. Yes, you can potentially give them some homework to do, a video to send them, By the way, all of these conversations that you have are all content for you. And so a big part of having these conversations and making notes is like, oh, there's a video for Instagram. Oh, there's a video for YouTube. Oh, there's a video for my program that I'm going to put together. So I love having conversations because it helps me with my podcast. It helps me with my content. So you've got these two islands, the island of where they don't want to be and the island of where they want to be. If you have done this right and you've asked these questions from both of the islands, you've actually spent some time asking good questions, finding out where they are, finding out where they want to be, what their goals are, it's going to be very easy for you to position your first session with them to be a massive win that is absolutely worth them just booking on the spot. And let's just do this as soon as possible. And what I would say is that you don't want to transist into would you like me to explain to you how the initial lesson works until you've got them to the point of which they are excited, right? And you can tell that, and that's the benefit of actually having, I would say, Zoom conversations with people versus on the phone, even though phone is fine, is that you can get a sense of, how they are looking with their eyes and their body language and, how excited they feel. So initial rapport, ask questions around 10 minutes, then find out where they want to be. And then there's going to be a point and a click where you're like, I can really help this person. And here's the thing, your excitement Your excitement, because you've asked these questions, is going to make them want to work with you, right? But you don't want to transit into that until that click point. So then, and this is very powerful, what you want to do, and people get stuck here, which is, then how do I transit into talking about what I'm doing and then the investment? So what you do is you say, perfect, I've gathered, you've shared with me a lot today. Would you like me to talk about how I can help you? All right. That's when you feel, yes, I can help them. Perfect. Would you like me to talk about, or, would you like me to talk about how I can help you? Or would you like me to talk about how I can help you and how I think the first lesson is really going to get you to the next level? You see how that's different? And then they're going to say yes. Most people, I don't think I've ever had a no, actually, in over more than a decade of working with people. All right. Would you like me to? So the answer is going to be yes. So then what you do is you look at your notes or mentally come back to a moment of recalling their pain point, right? Which is like, I'll give you the example of the scoring, right? So would you like me to talk about how I can help you? One of the things that I think is going to really benefit us working together in the first lesson is getting you very clear about the scoring system as we play a game together. Because by doing that, that's going to really build confidence when you're on the court. Because if you're thinking about that while you're on the court, you're actually not going to be playing as best as you can. So by doing that, you are fulfilling the same need as someone that comes into the gym for the first induction or showing them the equipment, and they're like all about their tummy, like, it's my tummy, I want to get my six pack. So that's what you're going to work on in the first session, is helping them feel like they've solved that issue. Even though on the bigger picture, there's going to be other things, we want to make sure that we're hitting that, right? Or it's going to be at least built into what you're doing if you do have a structure. So if you're hitting off 1 to 3 things that they really want to deal with, now, of course, that's not the only thing you're going to be doing in a beginner lesson, but if you're ticking off, 1 to 3 things that they really want because you've asked those questions, maybe there's another part of their game that they really want to dial in, and you bring that in too. That is going to have them want to say yes. So then you talk a little bit about the structure of the lesson, weaving in the things and the problems that they have and where they want to be. And then what you want to do is you want to say, by the end of the lesson, and this is what's called future pacing, by the end of the lesson, here's what you will be clear on, and this is what the outcome's going to be, making sure that you can deliver that. All right? There, of course, are some things that you don't know to be as a given. But there are some things also that you are going to be know to be true from working with your friends, from working, on your own. All right? So then you're going to make sure that there's a good rapport and a good feeling from them, like they're excited. And then the next transition point is, would you like me to talk about the investment, or would you like me to talk about the price? I would probably use the word investment. The cost of the time of the session is 60, 90 minutes. We're going to be playing here, and the cost of the session is blank, $50. And then what you do is you be silent. And that's that point after you present the price is important, because they are going to go into thinking. Now, most people are just going to be like, yeah, let's do it. Because you're going to have done the process well. It's going to be an easy flow. And this is not a high ticket item. Okay? This is a low ticket item. This is going to be very short. In fact, some people are just going to come on and be like, hey, I want to book on. And then you're not going to need to do a lot of it, because you sense an energy and you're going to actually speed up this process. But I would be using this process to gather information and knowledge so that you've got the content ideas and you're just having more and more conversations, learning more about the people that are interested. It's just going to really help your business long term. So then you ask about you say, would you like me to talk about the investment? It's this. You be quiet. You allow them some thinking time. And then they're most likely going to say yes. And then here's the important thing. What you're going to do is and this is probably the biggest thing I've learned about sales over the years, which is you're not going to say like, oh, I'm going to send you an invoice. You're going to take the payment there on the phone. And so what you say is, how would you like to pay? Because we'll be doing it on Venmo. And now here's the great thing about pickleball versus other industries, which is you need to book the court. So it makes sense that they pay there and then on the call, because in order to reserve the court time, because you're actually going to book, you're going to schedule that in on the call, they know that you need to book that court, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to say, how would you like to pay? And they'll say, here's my options, Venmo, card. Because what you can do is you can use Stripe, Zelle, Venmo. There's plenty of different options. And then you're going to do that on the call, and you're going to take payment on the call. Very, very important. If you control that flow, most likely you're not going to get kickback because people respect how you do your business. If they ask for another option, you can certainly do that, but just understand that, there are going to be scenarios where, for example, people are out and about and they need to get home, whatever, right? Don't overthink that too much. But just understand that if you do choose to go down the path of saying like, oh, let's jump off the call, I'll send you something, this is what's going to happen. People are going to go into their lives. The dog's going to start barking. The kid's going to start screaming. Something's going to happen in the gap between the call ending and life happening. And then that person may be gone. Something happens and it takes them off another path. Not even that they find somebody else. It's just that life happens, right? Once something's booked, once something's confirmed, then energy moves towards that which is already confirmed, locked in, paid for, invested. They know that they're doing it. So, but are there going to be scenarios where, I've had my clients have these scenarios where it's like, it's just something's happening in that moment. I need to get home and sort something out, shuffle some money around. It's completely legitimate. Don't overthink it. Stay in contact. That's fine. Everything will be okay. Objections. There are going to be here's the thing. With this ticket price, which is low, you're not going to really have a lot of objections come up. But if you do, what I want to do in this training versus like cover a bunch of objections is just give you an overlying understanding on objections. First of all, it's not personal. It's normal, right? The common objections are, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my partner. Or, I'm not sure if I have the time. Or whatever. Like, what people will do is they'll use something else. And so they're not explaining actually maybe the real reason for it. They're just trying to get off the call. But again, at this ticket price, it's not so much of an issue. But if someone says, for example, I need to think about it, what you do is you go back and you say, what do you need to think about? What is it you need to think about? And then they will tell you, right? Is it because maybe they've heard something on the call, something's been said, and something shifted within them to make them think, okay, this is actually not what I want. And so you need to get clear with them around that. And so the overlying way to deal with an objection, whatever it is to ask a question back. But especially when you're new to doing that, it's not natural to do that, right? So you want to gather more information. Because then if they get clarity around the actual thing, then they'll most likely move forward. Oh, actually, that makes sense for me. Now, I would say that timing can be an issue for people. Like, I've got to fit this into my schedule, those types of things. So there are logistical issues that need to be sorted, but most of all, they can be dealt with, in the moment. But instead of having someone instantly jump off and say, I need to go and do this. Ask questions. Start training yourself to be able to deal with situations that you don't think that you can deal with, but you actually can. But just understand at this price point, you're not really going to get a lot of objections, right? When you start to go up into higher price points, this level, bigger packages, right? Then you're going to start to get more. But the first and most important thing to do is to ask questions. For example, I just need to, I need to talk to my partner. What do you think the conversation will be like? Okay. Again, in this price point, you're probably not going to get that, because at $50, someone can make that investment. All right, I think we've covered most of today. Payment on a call. I mentioned a Venmo, Stripe, PayPal, Zelle. Now, Stripe, by the way, is a platform. If you're a business, you can sign up, and then you can actually just take credit cards over the phone. My clients, they use Venmo, they use Zelle. It's so simple now. You can link that to your business bank account or your personal one, and that's entirely fine. If you've got any questions on this, obviously you got the community access, and I'll see you on the final training, where we're going to be talking about your first lesson and you getting to the next level in your pickleball business, and I'm really excited. I'll see you then.